my whole life. All right. So believe it or not, I just realized I was not live for all of this. I did a hey everybody, I started streaming this and answered like the first 2 questions and had a whole conversation with you all, and I wasn't even live. But now we are. So allow me to start over. My name is Space Tomato, and this is okay, cool. My name is Space Tomato, and this is my monthly Q&A stream. A chance I wanted to give to people to ask me questions about my content, the stuff I do, YouTube in general, my personal life. A lot of people ask me stuff about why I'm in Turkey and all that kind of jazz. Somebody the other day accused me of being like a paid agent from Turkey affecting American politics because I held a charity. Now I imagine most of the people who would be interested in asking a question here would be smart enough to not think that's the case, but I'm here to answer the questions regardless. So let's dive into it. Again, anybody who wants to ask a question, I'll always put these posts up about halfway through a month, so make sure to look out for them on my community tab. And if you are a supporter, onion level or higher, you actually get to come and join me live. So I see Laura Skippy in the chat. We always have a few people come and ask questions as we're going, little follow-up questions and things like that. So if you're interested, feel free to jump in as a supporter. But anyways, let's get started with JC here. Jade C. First question, what inspires you the most when it comes to Star Citizen? And I like this question. This question, I'm a huge fan of immersive sims, and a lot of people love them, but it's not a very popular genre. So like think games like System Shock, Deus Ex, I think Stalker one, I can't remember. The new Prey is one. The games that give you tools that are meant for one thing maybe, but can be used for something else. A game that gives you objectives that they don't want you to go for, but if you decide to go for them, then they'll see how it goes. Fallout New Vegas is kind of like this. But those games where you can literally go and kill the boss of the game in the first hour and still play the game because the game can account for that, those are immersive sims. And Star Citizen does a really good job of bringing that into a game that's super expansive, that has a ton of professions, that's multiplayer, it's space-based. It is literally the world I want to live in with the type of gameplay I want. And they keep doubling down on that, allowing people to play the game in different ways. Experience the game based on your own time in game. You know, you either press a button to heal someone or you learn their injuries and figure out which drugs they need. You can tractor beam a box into a ship, or you can grab a missile that somebody fired and to redirect it somewhere else. Like when they give you these kinds of different tools and levels of interactivity with those tools and they double down on it, I love that. And as long as that's a thing, I'll always be part of this project. It's hard to maintain, especially with so much complex gameplay, but that stuff gets me so excited. And as long as CIG is trying to work that into the gameplay of this game, I could care less how many star systems there are. I could care less how the graphics look. Okay, I like good graphics though. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. But like that is such an important part of the game to me. They don't have to keep making ships, but keep developing that. I don't even know what a good word for it would be. That gameplay based on choice and decisions. Let us pay for our actions, you know, give us consequences and rewards, but let us do them. And that seems to be what they aim for. So I love it. It's a good question. Jonathan next says, although I found your channel about a year ago and I have only just begun to really dive into your content, you and Morph are my faves. Love some Morph. But anyway, I'd be curious to know as an early backer when you first backed SC and how you found your way to Turkey. I first backed SC before the Persistent Universe came out. So we were still going into the RCorp module. We were still going into the Hangar modules. But I wasn't playing. Like I backed in 2014, I think October-ish time. Maybe September. Yeah, that sounds about right. I think it was like early in my junior year of university I backed. And I didn't really care that much for it. Like, I liked what I saw, but I knew it was down the line. I was in that mindset of I'm looking at games that I'm going to be playing later. I had just gotten over the fact that I wasn't going to get Star Wars 1313. Wasn't going to get Prey 2. There were a few things that I was like, okay, fine. Not going to get them. I need something else. Mass Effect wasn't really doing much. So I'm like, anything that's coming out in the next 4 years, I'm down. So I latched on to Star Citizen. And, well... I did not expect it to do this much. I didn't expect it to be a game that I would dedicate so much time to. Didn't expect it to be my main game. Didn't expect it to be my career. Just kind of happened. So yeah, that's when I backed. I found my way to Turkey because my wife's from here. We're actually living in her hometown right now, getting to experience the culture a bit, understand the things that are different here from back home, like people on loudspeakers. And it's been wild. It's been an experience. But yeah, my wife is from here. This is where she grew up until like early teens, and then moved to England. But this is a lot of what her childhood was. This is a lot of what she knows, and I value the ability to be able to come over here and spend time. I mean, like, if I was working a traditional job, there's no way I'd be able to do this. So, yeah, that's why we came here. The actual explanation for why we had to come here. So there's two sides to that story. That is the basic answer. And it is very much a true answer. We are here because we like to be here. At this point, we don't have to be living here. However, when we first came here, that was a consequence of, unfortunately, the leader of the US at the time passed an executive order, I think his second day in office or so, which gave immigration control a lot of power. Like unanimous, we don't need to consult with people kinds of power. And a lot of people got caught up in that, and it derailed a lot of lives. And we were, unfortunately, two of the lives that got derailed there. So we originally were living in Florida. We met in Florida. We were planning on getting an apartment together, and then she was coming back to see me, and just like that, they took her, and she was not allowed to come back to the country for 5 years. So after a little while of fighting it while I was over there and she was here and trying to make it work, I decided to move over here to Turkey with her, and we fought it together for a year and a half, I think. We lived here for, was it a year and a half or 2.5 years? I can't think of it off the top of my head, but we fought it for a little while here from Turkey, and eventually got it completely removed. The government themselves had no reason for it and eliminated the ban right on the spot, and we were good to go. That's why we originally went to Turkey. A lot of people don't like me telling that story because they feel like I'm trying to make it political, but to be honest, that's the truth of it. And it definitely was the most transformative moment in my life, I think. And it's just crazy to see how, like, a decision like that, which doesn't really have that much of an effect when you just are reading about it in a paper, and then you go and you live through it, and it's like, this is happening every day. I don't know. I'm getting really into that, but that is it's a huge part of my life, and one that we're still kind of grappling with. Still don't really understand everything that happened, but we'll figure that out at some point. We got a couple questions in chat. Lord Skippy, Punji, Cynical Owl. Thanks, guys, for coming by. Question: why is Doggo not allowed to be in the office? Doggo is a dirty doggo. We actually have not had the chance to wash and brush them yet. Maybe when they're a little bit cleaner, I'll let them pad in here a little bit. But I don't know. I don't think that's gonna happen. We'll figure out a puppy cam somehow, some way. We'll like snake a camera down to the yard. Another question: how are your doggos? You all love the dogs, huh? They're good. They're happy. They're good. One of my dogs is smaller and has been practicing his right to escape. We actually had to move them in an emergency from the farmhouse where we used to live to this new house that we finally were able to afford. And the fence wasn't ready for him. It's got holes about this big in it, and that dog has a head about this big. So he slips right through and gets out. We have put up new fence. We spent hours putting up new fence. We tied a plastic chain to him, one that wouldn't weigh too much. We've done everything we can, and he still manages to get out. So at this point, we had to put a metal chain on him for now until we could figure out how to keep him. But the dogs are happy. They're good. They're fed. They're washed. They've got a safe space here, and we're going to be cutting the grass soon, so it's a lot more comfortable for them. Good old doggos. And then, of course, last question, can I pet your dog? Live chats is just really on the dogs today. If you can make your way here, you can give the dog all the pets. They love that. All right, Durden. Durden says, you've built quite the network and reputation with the content creators and streamers through your podcast interviews. Would you consider harnessing that network and organize that community to agree upon some core messaging points to deliver to CIG on a semi-regular basis? Things like suggestions for improving their communication or feedback on a particular game loop, or highlight specific bugs that are plaguing the community. If that network of streamers and content creators all delivered a core set of messages around the same time in their videos and content, it would be hard for CIG to ignore and could bear extremely valuable and concentrated feedback. And could bear extremely valuable and concentrated feedback to the developers and community team. To be honest, I don't think I would be the person for that just yet. I definitely, do a lot of talking to a lot of different people in the Star Citizen creator community, but I still feel like kind of a new guy. I've only been doing this for a few years, and excuse me, some of the people who have been around and are still doing content, it's been 6-7 years. I am doing what you're saying. I am definitely trying to put together a network of people that we can always be able to. A lot of video games have content creators, and I don't know what goes on behind the scenes. It could be different from what we see, but it oftentimes feels like they aren't that close. Like, they acknowledge each other, they might mention each other, maybe give a shout out here and there, but overall I don't feel like I see them collaborating all that often or coming up with joint messages like you're saying. That's something I'd love to do. I don't think I'm really at the time where I want to be doing that, just because we're just now, like 2 days ago was the first time in me and my wife's marriage, and in me and my wife's 4 years of being together, that we have a house and like a place that's settled. So we're trying to figure all of our content out, figure out what we want to do with our channels and everything. And then we're definitely starting to branch out to networking and getting more concerted messaging across the board with different creators. Keep an eye out for that, actually. Sort of end of July, beginning of August, you should start hearing a little bit about that. Not to do any leaks or anything like that. Neo Genia. What future feature are you anticipating the most, and what is the best recipe that contains tomatoes? Well, I mean, it's got to be pizza, right? How uncultured am I to answer that question with pizza? Can we just acknowledge that, like, there are some beautifully constructed pizzas in this world? Now, to be honest, that's hard to say, the best recipe that contains tomatoes, because how many of the best recipes in the world have tomatoes in them? I mean, better question, how many cultures in the world don't use tomatoes in their dishes? Like, one of the best parts about being a tomato is that everybody knows what they are. Like, my brand is transferable to all countries. The whole world knows. If aliens are ever discovered out there in the ether, we're gonna send them tomatoes first. We're gonna be like, these are the things that identify the human race. We're gonna send them that Rebecca Black Friday music video. We're gonna send them probably a couple video clips of some of our crazy world leaders right now. Maybe a clip of Will Smith slapping somebody, and a couple tomatoes. Like, define us, Tomatoes are all around us. So I don't know if I can answer that question. what I can say is that there's a lot of really, really good dishes with tomatoes in them. I'm talking stews and soups and salads, pizzas and pastas. Oh man, there's like tons of tomato dishes in Turkey. I can't even. Whew. It's a little too much tomato talk for me. The other question though, what future feature am I anticipating the most? I think at this point, so before this is an exciting one. Before this, I probably would have said long distance probing. That is one of the most mysterious sections of Star Citizen, I think. There is also one of the most debated exploration, right? What's the definition of exploration? What does it mean to explore? But I'm starting to get more and more about data running. These are both things I'm really excited for, but data running is also very mysterious. And the more I look back at what they talked about with data running, mentioned this in my recent economy video, the more I realize like it might actually be pretty integral to the rest of the game functioning correctly. So that'll be interesting too. Question in chat: did you just swap your headphone battery on the fly without looking while answering the questions? Now I'm impressed. I've gotten used to that. I've gotten pretty good at swapping out this battery. I know how to use my fingers. Pretty good at that. It's not an innuendo. Stop it. All right. What's your favorite gameplay loop in Star Citizen? Coming from Mr. Soul. Now or what I imagine will be in the... Yeah, this is nice. This combines with the last question quite well. Data running. I think data running is going to be my most interesting gameplay loop. See, the thing is, the way that missions are supposed to work, the way that prices are supposed to update, is supposed to be at the speed of data running, right? So if you want to trade something from Pyro 6 to Pyro 1, you can't just ping Pyro 1 and figure out what your stuff's going to sell for, right? You have to, and this is where it gets confusing. Are you going to have to track down a data runner and get their attention to get the info? Are you going to have to wait for a data runner to get to the space near you, to a comm array near you, so that that price gets updated? How will you know how far away they are? How will you know when that price is going to be updated? Is it better to wait, or is it better to just go for it? Can you figure something else out where you pay a private data runner who can send data even further? There's so many little things around the data running that are just very how the heck are you going to do that, CIG? Next part, Owen, for any reason, just like what naturally do I enjoy the most or are really excited about? Yeah, it's just the data running stuff, the exploration stuff. I gotta tell you, when it comes to video games, unless the video game is about combat, I don't really care that much about combat. You know what I mean? Like Halo, God of War, Titanfall, Mortal Kombat. These are games that are about beating some people up, you know? If the game isn't specifically about that and they're offering a lot of different types of gameplay, then combat is almost one of the last things I'm interested in. So going to the other side of the spectrum, exploration, farming, data running, base building, overall logistical support, that kind of stuff, like sending materials, receiving things back, getting deep into that kind of style of gameplay is not something that happens much in video games. So that definitely excites me more, because you know, I can go shoot other spaceships in other games if I wanted to. X4 I think is a good game for that kind of logistical stuff. Anybody is looking for one. Punji in chat said long distance probing. Pretty sure there's a few adult towing companies that enable that right now. Zynga! Thank you, Punji. I am now demonetized. All right, Tim C. Great work on the channel. I'd like to know what your favorite sci-fi franchise is and why. I didn't actually really look at these before getting... I'm usually more prepared than this. Believe it or not, my favorite sci-fi franchise... Oh, boy. Just a disclaimer, I'm actually not as big into sci-fi as one might believe based on how obsessed I am with Star Citizen. I've always been a big fan of sci-fi, but always kind of peripheral. I didn't really read the novels that much. I actually read a lot of fantasy novels growing up. TV shows I would kind of get into, but not that much. I never really dove into sci-fi, and that's kind of what I'm starting to do more of with my life. But believe it or not, my favorite sci-fi franchise is probably Deus Ex. I really, really like their take on cyberpunk. I think they have one of the best modern takes on a cyberpunk near future world. I like that it dabbles a lot in sort of the 80s and 90s conspiracy theories kind of stuff that made cyberpunk blossom. They've got like the dark organizations, they've got like the FEMA conspiracy theories, and obviously they kind of mirror real life with the whole discrimination against people with robotics. So I like what they've done with cyberpunk. Unfortunately, it's not really a spacefaring franchise, but it has a lot of really interesting stuff going for it, and it's like a pretty wide spanning time span. Besides that, I also really like the Dune franchise, but I haven't gotten to dive in that as much as I wanted to. The only reason I really like that one is because of how long term it is, like 30,000 years or something, which just, you can do a lot more with that. You can hear one of the dogs barking out there. He finds a good plant, he'll bark at it. All right, Shifty, thank you so much for the support, by the way. I see you with that red tomato. Solid. 6 months now. Thank you. If you could influence the development of the next star system, which one would you choose and why? Depends on if the gameplay would catch up with the system. If the development would actually catch up with the system, I pick Ellis, because then we get a ton of different planet types. We get jungle planets, we get water planets, we get amazing cities, we get paradise, and we'd probably also get a decent amount of touristic missions. But that's not necessarily all that amazing sounding, is it? No, I think Terra, to be honest, would probably expand our abilities the most, because we'd get an amazingly in-depth city, we'd get multiple landing zones on a planet. I think we'd get tons of missions. Quantum simulation would be through the roof in that system. Overall, just a very expansive general system to be added, so that might be an interesting one. Kyle Hood asks, what's your opinion on the Cutlass Black versus the Misk Freelancer? I like the Cutlass Black more. I'm not a huge fan of long ships. I prefer them to be squatter if they can be. And the Cutlass Black, I think, is a pretty solid amount of space and utility for that size ship. Yeah, I like it. I've never been a big fan of the Freelancer's doors. It feels like a long hallway flying through space. And the Misk style doesn't hit with me every time. I'd say like half of their ships are just I'm not a huge fan of. So mostly it's the looks, but also I think the Cutlass does a better job of feeling more compact. Tanner W asks, in the far off future, do you think something like an org-based bank account makes sense where everyone contributes, but everyone benefits? Ships that are purchased would be available to all assigned members, Org Central consumable storage, and generally a way for orgs to take a cut to fund events or even perhaps a base. Basically org taxes. Yes. Yes, I absolutely think that makes sense, and CIG themselves have already said that's going to be a thing. Org taxes will be a thing. Being able to have an org bank account, I don't know about that, but org taxes will be a thing. Being able to have a pool of ships obviously seems like a pretty good idea. Org bank account, yes. And overall, just services you could do with org members, I think they'll get pretty deep into that. I wish they would have gotten deeper by now, but at some point. C. McD, proud member of GII represent. Thank you so much for being here. What does CIG need to do or focus on to make the game more accessible to new players? How can they teach the basics without hand-holding? Can or should they create an in-game flight school, combat school, etc., or maybe have such tutorials not in the PU? I think the best way for them to make the game accessible to new players is to fix our interaction system. And that's not just about the menu that comes up, it's about how do they highlight things with augmented reality markers to show that, yes, this is interactable, or yes, this is of interest to you, or yes, this is something you need to know about. Not something that always happens, but instead of a hint system, I think it'd be much better if you leave your apartment, You go out into the city and you immediately get like an augmented reality overlay over the signs in the city saying, this is a city sign, look at these and look out for these so that you know where to go. Those kinds of things all over the game would be so helpful for new players. And I'm really hoping that the new visor system and some of the new HUD work that they're doing is going to help with that. But I also think that building in missions into the game that focus specifically on these things, focus on sending you like very basic missions too, things that'll pop up all in somebody's mobiGlas when they first start the game and never again. Things like go get a package from a station and deliver it to an outpost, or somebody needs a ship delivered. Go buy this ship and fly it to this area and then leave it there. Or an NPC has gotten hurt outside of the city. Take a ground vehicle and drive out to that area. Like the little basic things that you need to learn in the game, it'd be nice if those were packaged up in missions, not in tutorials necessarily, but opportunities that people can take if they want to, ignore if they don't. Kolkaust Rapgast, that's an interesting name, says, is Star Citizen casual friendly? That actually goes really well with the last question too, because it's not. It's not, but it's way more casual friendly than it was a year ago. And I think one of the main things they're focusing on right now is making it casual friendly. Casual is a weird way to put it though. I think there are casual players who like MMOs and space games, and then there are casual players. I was a casual player before I found Star Citizen. I was somebody who would jump into the game. When I built my PC for Star Citizen, the game that I actually said I was playing, was building it for, was The Witcher 3. So like, I liked RPGs, I liked mainline games, I liked big AAA titles, I was a console gamer. And I think a lot of people who are more casual in that sense are nowhere near ready for Star Citizen. To be honest, it's just like this game just doesn't meet you halfway, almost ever. You have to put in a lot of effort to make this game work for you, or you have to know it very well. And both of those things are not something that you can apply to casuals. Now, I think people who like space games, who maybe are already playing No Man's Sky or Elite Dangerous or Empyrean or X4 or what's that other one? The Rebel Outlaw Galaxy or something like that. Those people, yeah, I think this game is good enough for. I still don't think it's friendly. I think we're still far away from friendly, but I'd give it another couple years. It's really the interface and the interaction system they need to figure out to make Star Citizen casual friendly, because it's an alpha. You're getting everything replaced all the time anyways. It's not gonna hurt when you actually end up losing some progress. Give me 1 second. I need to check on my dog. All right, he's barking at the fence. What do you know? What's the next question? Lokeman, why is the first ship always the last ship? Retaliator sold first, but A2 bombs drop first. Reclaimer sold first, but Vulture salvages first. Cuddy Red is a med pen, and Apollo doesn't exist, but Carrick is the best medical. Okay. Data running, Herald replaced by MSR, and Data is not even out yet. Why is the first ship to introduce a gameplay always the last ship to get said gameplay? Well, two parts to this answer. For starters, some of those ships were off. The Carrick was the first introduced, and it was the first to get medical, I believe. The Herald and the MSR should get data running at the same time, so technically the Herald isn't getting it later, and the Reclaimer and the Vulture are both getting salvage ability at the same time as well. So those are kind of iffy, but I'll give you that they do stuff in the wrong order, and mainly that's because before they were able to sell ships and just like not do anything with them. Now, if they sell a ship, it's expected that it has gameplay more quickly. And that's really what it comes down to. The game wasn't in any sort of place for them to actually add that gameplay back then, so those ships kind of got left in the dust. And now that they can actually start looking at gameplay, it's much weirder for them to release a ship and not actually have some focus towards that gameplay. That being said, they still do it occasionally. The 400i, for instance, is an explorer without exploration, but they've gotten better with it, and we can see that with the Vulture. And let's see what else. Well, the Vulture. The A2, I guess, was another example of that, and some other things. But in general, for the most part, they are retroactively adding those features to the other ships. The Apollo, though, yeah, Apollo should have come out before the Cuddy Red. Unfortunately, that was an annoying one. But yeah, there are things that they do kind of out of order with this game because of the way that they set it all up, and it's frustrating at times. I get you there. Trek's Eyes Only asked, an elite dangerous player may have fun playing Star Citizen? Welcome back to Turkey. If you need anything, just let me know. Thank you. An elite dangerous player, yes, could definitely have fun playing Star Citizen. I won't say that's a guarantee, but I know a lot of elite dangerous players who come over and stay, especially in the last year. I mean, I've had some of them on my podcast. People like Black Maze, people like Dig That, people like Citizen Kate. These are people who were making content for Elite Dangerous and discovered things that they enjoy in Star Citizen. I think every year more and more people are making that switch because Star Citizen is continuously becoming a more viable game for people like that. Ryan asked, do you think salvage will actually become a better money-making method than trading? I think trading will always be king in terms of ability. You're always going to be able to trade no matter where you are, no matter who you're talking to. Trading is always going to be a focus or a possibility. Salvage is something that's a little more niche. Not by much. It is definitely a mainline profession, but salvage is not going to offer you probably as many job opportunities. That being said, I think there are areas and times when salvage will definitely be a better moneymaker than cargo. But the thing with Star Citizen, the way that its economy is working, the way that they seem to be planning on making the economy balanced, everything's going to be a viable way to make the most money depending on what you're best at. So I would say focus on whichever one is more fun for you, and then make that money, you know? Let's see, Random Roger. Last question for this month. Why Turkey, and is it permanently? Does the food or the internet speed sucks? It is not permanent. We're here for 5 months. However, we will be spending probably our summers over here, just to always have a chance to come and see our family, spend some time here. I mean, we work a job. We've started a business that allows us to do that travel. And I think it would be very rude to tell my wife we're just going to live in my country, even though we could travel back and forth. And to be quite honest, I love it here. So I don't mind spending some time here, and that's what we are hopefully going to do. Luckily, my wife's family has a place that we can use here, and we'll eventually grab a place, but it's not permanent. We'll be back and forth. That's just how it be. But I did answer the why earlier, so that is also out there already. Does the food or the internet speed suck though? The food is, I mean, oh. The food, I don't, like, there is an argument to be made that Turkey has the best food in the world. Obviously, that is not an objective fact. Please don't crucify me. Every country has amazing food that is the best at certain times, in certain ways, with certain ingredients. But Turkey's cuisine is top notch. It is good stuff. And the hospitality is amazing. So you go into a restaurant, or even you go into like a family member's place, and you're getting served the best of the best. And people really care about the food here. Food is a way of showing love here, for better or for worse. You're going to be able to experience it at its best. To put it into perspective, I have never been one to change weight that often throughout my life. In fact, from about 18 years old, I was around 160 or so, 160, 165 pounds. until I was 20. See, that'd be 3 years ago or so. Until I was like 26-ish, 27. My weight stayed between like 165 and 185 pounds. And I was working out. I was playing soccer. I was doing all kinds of stuff. When I got to Turkey, I gained 40 pounds in 8 months. Like, I never even imagined that would be possible for me because my weight's never fluctuated like that. But the food catches you off guard. It's good stuff. If anybody has the opportunity, you probably had Turkish food. A lot of times Turkish food will be sold in Western countries as Mediterranean food or sometimes as Greek food. So there's a good chance you've tried it before, but it's very good if you have the chance to try it or to travel to the country. I definitely suggest it. The internet speeds are not great. If you're in a city like Istanbul, you're going to be fine. You got fiber. You have no problems. I have fiber internet here, actually. As you can see, I'm streaming, no problem. But it's hit or miss, and I've run into a lot of problems with it, depending on the apartment, depending on the feed, depending on where it comes from. The internet infrastructure is not as good as other places here. It's definitely more Western you get in the country, more towards the West Coast, the better the situation gets in terms of things like internet, amenities, luxuries, things like that. But that's about it. That was a nice little hodgepodge of Turkey and Star Citizen. I enjoy these. I like doing these. I appreciate supporters coming to this live. I appreciate all of you who take part in it and ask questions. I love answering questions and letting people know what's going on and how it's going on. If you have any more though, I encourage everybody to throw them out there. I'd be happy to answer them next week, month. But this has been the June Q&A. Please feel free to throw any at me for the July Q&A, and I will see you all next week for another lovely little Q&A session. Have a wonderful summer, everyone. Catch you later.